people aren't just going to study it for no reason. There has to be a relevance that shows us how we're living today or makes it relevant to jobs or workforce. And so everything we've done at Moravian has been about relevancy and making our programs relevant to the workforce.
Hello and welcome to our amazing listeners here on the EDU Unlocked podcast with me, your host, Ashish Fernando. This is a place where we meet amazing leaders in higher ed, leaders who are not just there for their own institution, but they're there to change the whole ecosystem of higher ed, to move the buck forward. And joining us today is one such amazing leader and a good friend, Dr. Bryon Grigsby, the 16th president of Moravian University and Moravian Theological Seminary. Bryon, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Ashish. It's a pleasure to be here.
I must tell you, for this podcast, and I'll just be transparent with our listeners, I didn't even have to prepare much because Bryan's just such a natural. I was like, we're just going to come here, talk about the things that really matter to you the most and matter to us as a higher ed industry and with the student at the center. So I'm looking forward to this amazing conversation with you.
I am as well. Since our friendship started, it's been great just having a running dialogue of things that are going on as higher education is changing so dramatically in the time we're seeing right now. It's a great time to be leading higher education. I know there's lots of negatives out there, but the transformations that are happening are amazing for our students. So
That's amazing. I mean, it's kind of a weird time, isn't it? It's like being the president of an institution, just thinking about with all the advancements, AI, and kind of where you can actually take teaching and learning. And then there's also some headwinds, with what's happening. And so it's a really interesting time. So I'm curious at like 100,000 feet view. How do you feel about today?
Well, I'm redesigning my own course right now that I teach in the fall with AI curriculum designers. And so I am excited about everything that is there. But the headwind you're talking about is what is the artifact in an AI world of student learning now? And the artifact of student learning has changed over the years. In the Roman Empire, the artifact was the debate and the recitation. So students, a student has to be able to speak or write something to say we know they know it. And that artifact has changed over the centuries of education. So, like in Rome, it was the recitation and the debate. In the Middle Ages, it was memorization and regurgitation during the Middle Ages period of education. In the last 100 years, built primarily on the German university model, has been the 8 to 10 page term paper as the demonstration of learning. Well, that's now all up for grabs. And what we have to do as leaders, I think, is not defend the 8 to 10 page paper, but figure out what the new learning artifact is. What will demonstrate learning that the students have accomplished that using AI? And it's going to be something different. In my course right now, where we got have to demonstrate their knowledge in an interactive timeline. They then have to do a Padlet. Then they have to run a script of an individual person who is involved during the time of certain pandemics and what their life experience is and what they're going through. And that has to be like a 3-minute AI video that they have to do. So there's new artifacts learning that are exciting, but they're not for the last 100 years, it's been the 8 to 10 page paper with, 8 sources cited, and this is how you demonstrated learning. AI, as we both know, can produce that in 5 seconds, and it doesn't demonstrate learning anymore. So I'm excited about this. I mean, I spent 6 hours working with curriculum designers and our AI bot that we use for curriculum design and assessment, and easily that was 600 human hours if we
Yeah,
had
wow.
time. So
And with the AI and of course some human support there, how much did it reduce that from 600 hours roughly
six, six.
to six?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was incredible.
Like this is significant. And also, I mean, knowing you and for a little while and having those conversations with you, don't you think it's also um a question of trust? Like, how much trust can your leadership and the people who are actually using AI to build it put in AI and then verify? So it's kind of like trust the process, go in, train
Right.
it, and get it to a point where it's now smart enough because it understands your student, your institution, your curriculum. Now ask it to do something and then verify it. Like,
Right.
right? And a lot of people stop even before that phase of trust and training, and they say, "Oh, it's not working." Right?
Yes.
Has that been some of your experience initially?
Well, I think the first one is fear,
Yeah.
that they ask in a variety of different other statements, but they haven't even tried it yet, let alone gotten to the part of trust. And and then I think once you try it and you start realizing you're engaged in it, you're involved in it. I realized we made a mistake when we were going through this process, and actually when we get off this, I'm going to go back in and I need to put another module in that I realized I told it what to do and it did what I did, but then we ended up in a different place and we need the module we first had back in. So it's not doing everything for me. By just my story right there was, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I said, oh no, I needed that module. And so I have to go back in and put it. So it's still my course. Um, I think your trust but verify, that's what the experts are here for. That's what the faculty should see themselves as, that ultimately they're the experts. And this is, you know, it's it's augmented intelligence. It's just helping us. It's no different than we got rid of the card catalog and we created Boolean
Mm,
searches that brought us information quicker on how to find sources. This is just bringing us information to use in a surgical, effective way. But we still have to verify that it's right, just like you would have to verify a book that you're reading is actually right.
yeah, absolutely. It's great. And I love the fact that we dive straight into technology. I mean, it's my passion. It's what I do for a living. And you are, I think from the first minute, we were like, oh my God, yeah, technology is here. The revolution's here. And we got to just use it in the right way. I love that. All of that thought process that you have that then drives down to the team, would you attribute the immense transformation that Moravian's gone through, including the transition from a college to a university, being an Apple distinguished school, just so much that's happened during your presidency. What would you attribute that to? Would it be that forward thinking and pushing the team to be thinking? I'd love to hear that. Our listeners would love it.
I think I think what has pushed us is that we have a need to be relevant, and
Mm,
and you know some of my detractors would say, I'm the devil incarnate because my PhD is in medieval and Renaissance literature. So you can't get more kind of classical unless you were a classicist. But I was trained by my dissertation advisor that we have to demonstrate how our period is relevant. People aren't just going to study it for no reason. There has to be a relevance that shows us how we're living today or makes it relevant to jobs or workforce. And so everything we've done at
Yeah.
Moravian has been about relevancy and making our programs relevant to the workforce. I have no shame saying that one of the major goals in college is to get students employed and into the real world. We're the stepping stone from their high school and being with their parents to trying out living on their own to eventually being on their own. And so um, we're an Apple distinguished school. Every single student gets a MacBook, an iPad, and a pencil and a watch. We now track student wellness because through the wearable, through the watch, because student mental health and wellness is one of our greatest pinch points, right, with our students right now. Particularly mental health is so difficult for our students.
Yeah.
So we have constantly been relevant. Or we have a fantastic nursing program. By one estimate, we're the number fifth fastest growing university in America. Um,
Wow.
we got World Heritage designation last summer, and so we became the 26th World Heritage Site in the United States. So all those things show our relevancy, and uh, and I think that's where the downfall is right now with colleges and universities. If you're not relevant, why are you existing?
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, just amazing that you have that World Heritage status. It's just amazing. And that's a beautiful campus and the place is amazing. But
Yeah.
that's
Well,
great.
it's driving now digital humanities, which is again what
Yeah.
makes the humanities relevant. Well, we're using
Yes.
AI because we have some Moravian ruins, and our institute is using the LiDAR cameras to
Mm,
take pictures and then go back. Students are going back to the archives and using AI to build what the ruins look like in 1780, 1880, 1980. So there's
wow.
so much opportunity for humanities students if you would just give up the 8 to 10 page paper and start doing some of these really cool things that are out there.
Very few leaders, Brian, think and even vocalize the way you do. I love that. I mean, I've been here shouting AI is the future, tech is the future for the last 7, 8 years. And a lot of times I just hit a brick wall, because in higher ed, we think, no, hey, don't disturb the traditional way of doing things. And
Right.
I'm going, yeah, but the student of today, the customer of today wants something totally different. they're
Yes.
not they're not the ones like back in my day when they're writing like 28-page answers for their exams. It's very different how they even think. So just it's amazing that that y'all have that one step forward mentality. I think that'll take Moravian a long way. I love that. And especially like all the stuff you're doing with Apple. Yeah, just tracking student data, just giving them all those devices. That's what they love. So
Yeah.
you give them what they love, and then they're gonna give you back the data that you need, and then now it becomes a nice flywheel. I love that.
and
I
and
love
you know that AI is the game changer for driving down the costs. We talk about how much colleges cost, and AI can actually be the game changer in bringing down costs for our students, which is going to be so critical for them achieving their life dreams and goals, rather than saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt. We can probably bring down the cost significantly with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we switch a little bit to honestly the past, I feel,
Okay.
and and ask you a little bit about yourself. How did you get into higher ed? Why higher ed? Why not something else? And and then your path to presidency. Like I'm sure there's some impactful stories back there that drove those decisions. Would love to hear that.
Well, I'm the child of two high school teachers. And
Okay.
Sports were our passion. My mom was a swim coach, and my dad was a basketball coach, and I played soccer and basketball. Um, my
Mm.
mother will tell you that I walked into kindergarten, saw a good thing, and never left. Fairly accurate. I came to Moravian though, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I struggled at Moravian as a student. I did not know what major I wanted. I didn't know what the real outcome was. I was just trying to do a continuation of high school. I played soccer and basketball at Moravian, and the best thing that ever happened to me was I had a career-ending knee injury, and kind of fell into a depression. And uh, the famous statement, Chinese statement, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I had a mentor who showed up unexpectedly, and I wanted to be like him. And he was an English professor. And so if you had told me, my high school me, I was going to be an English major, I would have told you you were nuts. I mean, I liked reading Stephen King and other books like that, but I wasn't going to be studying Shakespeare or Chaucer. And people don't normally decide that they're going to get a PhD in English their junior year in college. And so he leveled the playing field for me. He showed me how I was going to have to catch up in significant ways if I was going to be successful getting a PhD. And he's 90, he'll be 94 next week. And we still have lunch twice a month together.
Wow.
And I wanted to be like him. Now, he said at my inauguration uh, that I said, I'm going to come back here one day and run this place. Now, it sounds cocky enough to be the right author, but I don't remember saying that. And if I said it, I meant I was going to be the chair of the English department like him. So I got my PhD. I got a job at a liberal arts college. And about 4 years into that job, the new president dragged me into the office and he said, "What do you think about administration?" And I said, "I think you guys are okay, but you wear funny suits." And he, "No, what about you becoming one of the funny suits?" And I never thought about it. And so I said I would do it for 3 years and I'd go back to the faculty after that. That was 2003. I've never been back to the faculty since then. I started loving administration because I could make an impact on more students in more significant ways in the administrative area than I was doing in the classroom. And then I realized that, well, if I was going to have this kind of job and this kind of impact, I want to do it for my alma mater. I don't want to
Mhm.
make someone else's alma mater stronger. I want to make mine. And so I applied for the job as president with a year under my belt as provost, and I was flatly denied, told I wasn't ready for it yet, which was true. And then I came to the inauguration of that president to find out his age, because if he was 40, I was going to be in trouble. But if he was 68, I have another
You'd
run
be,
at. And
yeah,
so I went down to Shenandoah University as the provost there. I worked with Tracy Fitzsimmons, who's a phenomenal leader. And 5 years down there, the job uh, came available again, and I applied and got it. So that's my
that's
my path to Moravian.
that's amazing, amazing. When you walked the corridors of Moravian as a student, did you ever dream that you'd come back here, but in such a different, the most impactful role on campus?
No, I didn't. And
Yeah,
and and I've said that I had a love-hate relationship with Moravian.
yeah.
Um, and it wasn't anything Moravian was doing. It was me. It was me struggling with me. But I was taking it out on the school. And, the really annoying thing about the Moravians is no matter how much you act out, they just keep on loving on you. And it's kind of annoying, to be honest. But when I
That's really
turned the
cool.
corner and I knew what I wanted to be, Moravian was also there. and it was laying open the pathway. Like this is the educational pathway you're going to need to do to get where you want to go. So I love this place now with all my heart. But it was a struggle. There were times I was downright a jerk to it.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. I think in all of my podcasts, the only other one where I had a similar story of a president who also studied there, was a student, and kind of came back to take the top job, was President Luke Wood at Sac State.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
and he studied there, and he was also telling that story, saying, "Yeah, I was a student here, and I didn't have enough money to eat, and I was like, what's the point of this education of coming here?" And
Right.
then just coming back to be the president, just that whole pivotal moment. Yeah, it kind of sounds like you have a very strong similar story. That's amazing.
There's
Um,
lots of advantages to being the alumni president. You can actually say to the students, I walked the same paths you walked.
yeah,
Um,
I was in your shoes. It's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
In general, the faculty know you love the place, so you're not intentionally destroying it. You're naively destroying it, would be the way they would describe it.
That's funny.
And you
You
and you get to call out the alums in different ways. Joe Hibble is here at Lehigh. He's an alum president, and something happened with the students and tearing down goalposts, and some alums were very happy about it, and he explained why this was not something to be happy about, and only an alum president can get away with that. And so there's just examples of that. Like you get
yeah.
treated differently by the alums because it's your alma mater too. Um,
That is true. That is true. Yeah. If I were to dream of being the president at Bentley University, yeah, I can. Yeah, you feel a sense of pride and connection. Right? Yeah, yeah, I can tell. Yeah, that's amazing. Now, at Moravian, since you've been there, out of all the changes you've made, there's one specific uh, thing that kind of caught my attention, and that's Heritage Day, where you're emphasizing service and community engagement, and that's like a dedicated day. What's the background there? Where did that thought come from? And yeah, talk
so
to us about it.
so when I became president, I said before I get there, I want a survey done of all the community, the alumni, the students. I want these questions answered, which were some of the things of like basically the question I ask at almost every student I see is, if you were president, what would you do differently? Because I'm actually getting feedback from the stakeholder that's involved with. So I asked the alums, if you were the president, what would you do differently? What needs to be done? What needs to be fixed? And one of the things they came back with was, for us being the sixth oldest college in the United States, celebrating 282 years or 83 years coming up, we don't have a whole lot of traditions that are quirky-ish traditions. We have Vespers, we do that. We've always done that. We have the Moravian Mile. We walk between both campuses. But, there's places like Juniata where the freshman class has to break through the gates and the seniors defend the gates. And there's those kind of traditions. So I put it to a task force. They looked at all colleges and universities' traditions, and they came up with the Heritage Day as a new tradition we should start that fits in with what the mission is. And so the mission of the Moravians has always been to serve the community, usually through education and the things that education brings: clean water, um, infrastructure, architectural buildings, all those kind of things. So we would do that for a day, and what it came out with was it became part of the curriculum, in the sense of, if we can get students to really have the foundational skills of critical thinking, community leadership, communication, well, quantitative, qualitative analysis, but essentially the liberal arts skills and the professional skills. They want to be a nurse or whatever. We can teach them to give back to the community, and we can have them have a global trip. We have done the best we can to set them off. And so this community engagement is, you may not have grown up with a family who does community service. So here's your first toe in the water on a day. We're canceling all classes. We're sending the entire community out to serve the community. Then we're going to come back and talk about it and reflect about what it means to care for the community that cares for us. And if you want to do more of this, there's the Center for Community Engagement right there, and you can do this every single week. And so we have so many of our students who talk about this is the number one thing they did at Moravian, was being involved in the community and then serving the community.
Wow.
So
Love
it
that.
creates a culture of philanthropy. And when people talk about that, I always feel like colleges think they're being greedy. Like we want them to give back. Yes, we want them to give back to their alma mater, but I don't care who they give back to, as long as they're giving back. So if they're giving back to their community in volunteer hours, that's wonderful and that's great. If they're going to a soup kitchen, if they're reading to young students, all those kind of volunteer services. So it's got to start with someone somewhere saying, hey, just experience this and see what you think about it.
Yeah, that's such a powerful statement. Yeah, I think, if I talk to leadership, presidents, a lot of times the first thing they're talking about is, growing campus and technology and all of that. And I mean, yes, there is a sense of student engagement and things like this, but I mean, the way you talk about it, just, in connecting giving back to doing something that's active that people remember as the number one thing when they leave campus, that's amazing. Like for me, when I left Bentley, I can hardly say I have any remembrance of, any engagement around community and that aspect. And I'm sure they have it. But when it's the voice of the president, I'm sure it really like permeates the whole campus. I love that. It's amazing.
I think there's two things there. One of the things is, if we experience something, we learn it better. And that actually comes
Yeah.
from Comenius, who is the father of modern education and the Moravian bishop that started all the education components. The Many of you probably have seen a Moravian star, the 26-point polyhedron. It's a round star. That's actually
Yeah.
a fourth grade Moravian student puzzle, how to get a polyhedron together. But if it's based on experiential learning, grounds the learning into the student. So we could have a class where we talked about community service and how important community service, or we could just do community service and then talk about what that experience was like. And so I think that's the connection. The more, and then that feeds back to AI too. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we sell as a product, is the moments you're with a human being working on a project. Even with AI helping out with the project, it's still the experience of going through the project that makes learning possible.
I love that. I love that. And I want to come back to AI and ask you a couple of interesting what if questions around AI.
Yeah.
But before that, one fun question. So when you were a student at Moravian, what's one story that people haven't heard about? One something fun, something that happened that stuck in your mind. Because Heritage Day didn't exist back then.
Now, well, so when I was a student here, um, Dead Poet Society movie had just come out.
Okay.
And it was at that moment cool to do poetry, because Robin Williams was the leading,
Yeah.
character in
Past.
that
Yeah.
movie. And so I got the okay from the president's office to run Dead Poets Society meetings in our Gothic church cathedral. And candles were not an allowed option, but I got the president to allow me to actually light candles during our Dead Poets Society meetings. So,
That is so cool.
and we sat around being very erudite with our candles, reading Blake and Wordsworth like they did in Dead Poets Society.
That is so much fun. With the lights off, just the
Yeah,
candles
yeah.
and your voice is echoing in the
In the,
Gothic cathedral.
yeah.
I love that. That's unreal. Yeah. Uh, it's I actually saw pictures of the cathedral. I don't know if I think they've changed it a little bit now, right? There's some
Mhm. Yeah,
modifications done there, but I have a kind of a vivid memory of what that cathedral looks like. That's pretty awesome. Good. Thank you for sharing that. So now switching back to AI and the future. And kind of your thoughts as we conclude this wonderful episode, your thoughts on where you're gonna go. So if you were to think of what would be like the maybe the top one or two items or functions that AI can actually take over and do really well. You talk about curriculum development and you're already doing that. So I assume that's one of the two. Is
um,
there,
I
yeah,
think I think AI could really impact student retention in a significant way. Um, I think there's possibilities of it um, being both an early warning system for colleges and a tutorial system for students. But we need it. We need an AI that will take all the immense amount of data we have in Navigate and Maxion and police records and financial issues and put it all together and scrape it and be able to produce an AI bot that tracks a student on an hourly basis and says, "Hey, Ashish, you have a an anatomy physiology exam in a week. Shouldn't we start studying? Here's the beginning of a plan. Let's spend 20 minutes working on anatomy and phys this week." And you're feeding back to that. And but then if you do poorly on that and we need now intervention, it can go and get the intervention that we need and bring that back. Like there's so much,
yeah,
there's so many people I throw at the daily work of finding out who's in trouble early on our campus that AI could take over because it can access large data fields and produce early warning systems that would help our staff respond better, probably lower the number of staff we need doing that because it's doing it for us, but make them much more efficient in what they're doing. So that's, to
yeah,
me right now, that's, there's programs out there that do engagement with AI, but they're not taking all the data, scraping it together and bringing it to the person that needs the help. So
yeah. I
it's like
love that. Well
that,
said. Yeah, yeah, totally, and well said. And I usually on podcasts I totally avoid talking about what we do with technology, but
right?
I have to say, and this is probably going to be happy news for you as well. Since we met, the months after, we've been kind of trying to develop AI around helping. I always tell when people tell me, "What's your vision?" I always tell them for years and years, if you call American Airlines or you call AT&T, the person on the other side is typically going to give you the same experience, no matter who you talk to, because it's the system that drives it. The
Right.
system says, here's Ashish calling, here's what they want, they're not happy with the service, okay, give them this, okay, now tell them this, okay, now here, now record, right? And it's kind of system driven and human assisted. So you might, yeah, some people have a kinder voice, some people sound better, nicer, but they're going to give you the same sequence, the same experience. And with higher ed, we've been very inconsistent. It's mainly human driven and just system assisted. It's
Yeah.
like every advisor is trying to think on their own. Oh my God, what am I going to tell the student? What should I do next? And we've been trying to kind of flip that script and say, why can this not be like an American Airlines or somewhere?
Exactly.
And so the month after GSV, we actually won the 2025 Salesforce competition for the best solution built on their AI. That's Agentforce, which is their
Right.
conversation AI. And that was a very gratifying moment for me,
Yeah.
because I
Congratulations.
heard a lot of people, yeah, who were not even in higher ed, they were in other industries, but saying, yeah, we went through this experience ourselves, or our kids are going through this experience, and this solution is what makes sense. So that was a really good validation of
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
there's so much potential. I mean, part of the problem is, and you have your finger on it. The process isn't there for
Yeah,
so many colleges. Um, we just throw more people at it, and you
right.
know, technology is an accelerant. So if you don't have the process and you throw technology on it, you just get a bad result faster than you got previously. But if you have a great process and you add technology to that, you get a greater process faster. Um, but we are woeful in our best practices of process at colleges and universities.
Yeah, yeah, you said it. And it's a touchy topic, so I don't want to go too deep into that. But with all of this innovation, and especially with somebody like the thought process that you have, who's at a decision making table, with the things that are happening around Pell Grants and Department of Ed cuts, and just the basic daily unknown of what's going to happen, whether it's going to be good, bad. Like at this point, the reaction mostly is negative outside. What do you uh, feel is going to impact that decision making potential? Because I feel like in the last few years, higher ed's been like, yeah, I think we're ready for AI, right? We're ready to put some budget into this, and suddenly it's like, oh, budget cuts.
Yeah. I, I mean, my frustration is that we're most of us are not like the Ivies. And what is going on between the president and Harvard and Columbia, there's 4,000 universities. There are, a handful of premier universities. The
Yeah.
rest of us are doing the country's work in making doctors and teachers and nurses and physical therapists. And so all the issues that um, make the headlines about higher ed are not the reality of the majority of higher ed. And that's what's fun,
Hmm.
because we need nurses. I mean, I think we can all agree that, and we'd like
100%.
them, to be college educated. So,
Yes.
I'm not the problem. And I wish I didn't get painted with the large brushstroke of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah. Um, but in all of that, you do see hope for us. Let's say we had to fast forward 5 years. I intentionally say five. Uh,
I
y-
I think I think as long as you, back to our point, as long as you may remain relative
yeah.
uh, to the parents. I have 3 kids. I want them to have a career and a job that they can pay for themselves and do the things they want to do. We have to demonstrate that we are one of the pathways for that. We're not the only pathway. There's lots of other pathways. You can go become a plumber. You can go in community college into trade school. You can go become an apprentice. You can have a successful life. But if you want to go into being a nurse, a teacher, things that require formal education, we're that pathway, and we have to embrace that and sell that. The idea that we are a place where you wander around for 4 years, you know, thinking great thoughts, and you get out
Mhm.
without without a usable skill for the workforce. That's not a path that we can sell. um, so I am hopeful, but colleges are going to become much more vocational, which is, I'm okay with that. Vocation means to find your calling. I think that's a perfectly good statement to say colleges are places where students find their calling. And so I
I
think
love that.
I think relevance is the key. It goes against the argument that what they're doing is not relevant.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's super powerful and helpful. Thank you, Brian. Um, as we conclude this, I want to ask you some very important, relevant, what's one questions? And it's just basically what's one thing, what's one piece, or what, right? So I want to start by saying, what's the one attribute or feature that differentiates, other than luck? I know a little bit of luck, but what is that one feature that somebody needs to have for them to take that final next step to be eligible to be the president of an institution?
I always think I think I've had great mentors and great people who are willing. I'm willing to ask for help,
Mm,
and I love listening to people who are experts in other areas, and then asking them for help and then learning from them. I like learning. I like learning a lot. Um, I am not a great scholar. By that, I would mean, on reflection, I realized that I was not going to spend 40 years looking at Chaucer's Canterbury Tales and just writing expert papers on that for, many of our faculty, and I'm thankful they're here, are looking at one thing and they are the expert in that area. And we want that. We want the person who knows everything about breast cancer or whatever the subject matter is. I get bored at about 90%. I say I'm a
yeah.
90% scholar and I want to go learn something else. So administration is great for me because there's a crisis almost every day that I got to go learn something new. It could be bed bugs, it could be sewerage, it could be you know, a vehicle that blows up. It could be any number of things that we have. And so I'm constantly learning. And I would say that that is one of the keys. And I'd say the other key is, if you were to become a president, know who you want to serve. So I love students. I just took students to on a European trip. We had 21 of them to go to the entire World Heritage Site that makes up Moravian, which covers Europe and Bethlehem.
Mm,
And I had a great 14 days. Now, there are presidents who are faculty presidents, and they're at Research One universities, and that's the right place for them. I would not say I'm a faculty president. I'm a student centered president. And that's right for who Moravian is. We're not a research university, but pick the school that's right for you and where you find your energy and passion in doing.
love that. I love the little anecdotes on mentorship. Yeah, it's I personally feel very strongly about mentorship and where I am because of the mentors I've had. So just hearing from you is super helpful. Always get mentored by the person you want to be.
Yeah. And I've never I've never been turned down when I've asked for help. Like I
Yeah, yeah.
never
Isn't that?
remember someone going, I'm not going to help you. Um,
No. I feel like that's one of the secrets of human psychology that people hardly tap into. Like, if somebody comes to you saying, I don't need to sell you anything, give you anything, I actually just want to hear from you and just take advice and learn. Would you be willing? Most people would say yes.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I tell my team sometimes, always when you ask for mentorship, I give this example. I'm like, I decided to send Bill Gates an email. I never got a reply, but I'm like, yeah, hey Bill, can you be my mentor?
Yeah. Well, I
So
can
why
imagine
not?
things like that. Well, it's worth a shot, right?
It's worth a shot. Yeah,
I'm not
I've had
no right
some.
now. I might as
Oh
well
yeah, yeah. I've had some people who've, in fact, the way I got into higher ed, I did a podcast with Stephen Boyd, this gentleman he was leading international enrollment at a couple of institutions. So he was the first person when I heard him at one of these NAFSAs or some conference, and I loved what he said and how he thought about the student. So I just walked up to him and I gave him my business card, and he looked at it. And on that it said, "Will you be my mentor?" He had written it with a pen, and he loved that. He's like, nobody's done that to me before. Okay, show up in my office.
yeah. Yeah. Uh,
So amazing. All right, awesome. What's one accomplishment at Moravian during your tenure that you're extremely and particularly proud of?
um, I'm particularly proud of our move to a university. Um, that some pieces really fell together for us going that direction. I was worried about it. To that there was going to be pushback from the alums, but the growth in our graduate programs and I've said that kind of my model for the kind of university we are is Wake Forest.
Mm,
Wake is very very focused on its undergraduates, but also has a lot of professional programs. They don't use uh, the graduate programs to teach the undergraduates. They make sure they're dedicating the resources to the undergraduates as well. So that's been my model, and um, being a university and then achieving the World Heritage um, around the value Moravians did to the world for education, that those two things lined up. Like if we were still a college internationally, that doesn't ring true. But to
yeah,
say we're one of two universities in America that have World Heritage recognition, UVA being the other, is much more powerful on a global stage. And now that we're um, being identified to be the research component for the World Heritage and for ICOMOS in America and UNESCO, that movement to university helped that argument later on, and I never even saw that was coming for the most part. So
love that. It
yeah,
fell in place.
it was a big move for a school that for ages had been, in the top 100 liberal arts colleges on US News and World Report, and that's kind of how it identified itself and knew to go to no, we're going to be a, master's
Mm,
comprehensive regional serving university, and then the
mm.
World Heritage is going to fall in our lap. Um, was some luck and some good planning. So
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's yeah. Luck is basically just opportunity meeting a rigorous uh, attempt. That's
yeah.
it. And you get that. So that's amazing. Good to hear about that. A little about outside your life as president. What's one hobby that people will be like, "Wow, I didn't know, Brian, you did that." What's one hobby or something that you
We're starting
pursue?
we're starting a new hobby that people probably would not know from me. They know my hobby is golf as a
Okay.
standard thing. But my wife and
Awesome.
I are starting a hobby of we are boating. We bought a
Okay.
boat, and we have a bucket list that we want to do the Great Loop, which is a year long, where you go up the New York Harbor into the Hudson River, and you go around into the Great Lakes, and you come down the Mississippi, and you go into the Gulf, and you come around Key West, and you do that's a whole loop, and it takes a
Oh.
year to do it. And so this is our new hobby. Is we have 10 roughly 10 years to get prepared to be able to do this. And
Oh,
so
I love that. I
whenever we
love
get some time, we go try, because we got to learn how to get through locks and bridges. And we have not been boating people previously. So it's our new
Oh,
hobby.
okay. Wow. Okay, that's a twist. You've not been voting people, but
Yeah.
you want to do this. I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, that's something that now you and your wife have for 10 years. Just kind of like weekends, think through, spend
Yep.
some quality time together. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's amazing. This is great, Brian. Thank you very much for just being here and talking to us through AI, facets and facets of a president and the institution, and most importantly, the student. And you being a student first president, I really appreciate that. I appreciate how progressive you are, even though you might be getting a lot of pushback on, things like AI and pushing that buck forward with technology, but you've still been going at it, and you can see it in not just the numbers, but you can see it in all the accolades that Moravian is getting. And I know you're extremely proud of the things that your team is doing, your institution's doing, and so am I. I'm glad I bumped into you at GSV, and we hit it off, and here we are talking about how you're changing the world of education. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashish. It's great to talk to you, as always. I look forward to when we get together again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, those breakfasts are amazing. I love it. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners for joining another absolutely fantastic episode of EDU Unlocked with me, your host, Ashish Fernando, and our wonderful guest for today, Bryon Grigsby, the president of Moravian University. Thank you so much.